"Put it back, son. Mommy can't pay." But the millionaire behind them heard everything and... Sarah Mitchell held tightly to the crumpled shopping list as she walked through the aisles of the Safeway supermarket in the Chinatown neighborhood of New York. Her cleaning assistant salary barely covered the rent and basic bills, but she needed to stretch the few dollars she had left to feed her 6-year-old son for the rest of the month. That's when Daniel, her little boy, stopped in front of the cereal shelf and his eyes lit up upon seeing a colorful box of sugar-frosted flakes. He took the product with his small hands and ran to her, grinning from ear to ear. "Mommy, look, it's just like the one on the TV commercial. Can I get it?" Sarah felt her heart tighten. She checked the price and sighed deeply. $15. $15 that would be needed for the powdered milk and bread for next week's breakfast. "Put it back, son. Mommy can't pay for it today," she whispered, trying to keep her voice calm so as not to hurt the child. Daniel lowered his head, disappointed, but obedient as always. He began to walk slowly back to the shelf, dragging his feet on the cold supermarket floor. Sarah closed her eyes for a second, fighting back the tears that insisted on welling up. A few meters away, Marcus Henderson was watching the entire scene. At 42, he was the owner of a construction company that earned millions per year, but at that moment he felt small in the face of that mother's dignity. He wore an impeccable white dress shirt and held a basket with imported products that cost more than her monthly salary. Marcus had lost his own family in a car accident 3 years before. His wife Jennifer and their 7-year-old daughter Emily hadn't survived the impact. Since then, he had been buried in work, trying to forget the pain that gnawed at his chest every day. That supermarket was near his empty apartment in the Upper East Side, where he did quick shopping when he could no longer eat at the expensive restaurants in the area. Sarah checked her wallet again. She counted the $2 bills one by one, mentally calculating what she could manage to buy. Daniel came back near her, trying to hide his sadness behind a forced smile. "It's okay, Mommy. I didn't really want it that much." The boy lied, but his words came out choked. "Don't lie to Mommy, my love. I know you did want it." Sarah knelt to her son's eye level and held his small hands. "We can't buy it today, but maybe next month, when Grandma Margaret gets her benefit check, we can manage, okay?" Daniel nodded, even without fully understanding why there was always a lack of money at home. He knew his mother worked a lot, leaving in the early hours and returning only at lunchtime, tired and with her hands hurt from the cleaning products. Marcus couldn't contain himself. He discreetly approached, pretending to look for something on the same shelf. He heard Sarah explaining to Daniel that they would have to choose between the yogurt and the ham for his school sandwiches. "If we buy the ham, you'll only take bread with ham in your lunchbox. If we buy the yogurt, it'll just be bread with margarine," she explained patiently, as if it were the most normal thing in the world. "I like bread with margarine," Daniel replied quickly, trying to make his mother's decision easier. Marcus felt a lump in his throat. He remembered when Emily would throw tantrums in the supermarket because she wanted 2 different kinds of yogurt, and he would buy everything without even looking at the price. How many times had he wasted food at home while this family had to make such painful choices? He discreetly followed them to the deli section. Sarah picked up the cheapest ham, 2nd grade, and asked the counter clerk for just 200 grams. Daniel stood on his tiptoes trying to see what was happening, while she checked the money one more time. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out, now continuing. At the checkout, Sarah carefully separated each item: milk, sandwich bread, margarine, rice, beans, eggs, and the ham. She counted the money 3 times before handing it to the cashier. Only a 50-cent coin remained. Marcus was in line right behind, watching every move. When his turn came, he quickly bought a few expensive items without even checking the change. The contrast between the 2 realities was stark. In the parking lot, he saw Sarah and Daniel walking toward the bus stop. She carried 2 simple plastic bags, while he held onto the hem of her skirt so he wouldn't get lost. Marcus got into his black BMW and, on impulse, decided to follow them. The bus they took went along the Cross Bronx Expressway toward the South Bronx, one of the most outlying neighborhoods in the eastern part of New York. Marcus had never been to that area, but he kept his distance, following the bus through the heavy afternoon traffic. Sarah and Daniel got off at the last stop. Marcus parked his car a few blocks back and watched as they walked down narrow, unpaved streets lined with simple brick houses. He felt completely out of place in that environment, but a strange curiosity drove him. They stopped in front of a small house, painted a faded blue with a simple iron gate. In the tiny yard, there were a few plants in pots made from old cans. Sarah opened the gate and Daniel ran inside, shouting, "Grandma Margaret, we're here!" A woman of about 70 appeared at the door. White hair tied in a simple bun, wearing a worn but clean cotton dress. Her eyes were the same as Sarah's, brown and expressive, but they carried the weariness of someone who had fought hard in life. "How was it today, my dear?" asked Mrs. Margaret, helping with the bags. "Fine, Mum. I managed to get everything on the list," Sarah lied, omitting Daniel's frustration about the cereal. Marcus watched from afar, hidden behind another car. He saw Mrs. Margaret pick Daniel up, despite her advanced age, and kiss his face affectionately. The scene of family love moved him deeply. Inside the house, Sarah put away the groceries in the small refrigerator and the kitchen cabinet that barely had 3 shelves. Mrs. Margaret prepared a simple coffee, while Daniel played with some plastic toys scattered on the floor of the tiny living room. "Sarah, I need to tell you something," said Mrs. Margaret, lowering her voice. "Mr. Richard came by today. He said if the rent isn't paid by Friday, he'll have to evict us." Sarah felt the world spin. The rent for the simple house was $800, and she was already 2 months behind. She worked as a cleaning assistant in 3 different places, a commercial building overnight, a public school in the morning, and a family home twice a week in the afternoon. Even so, she barely managed to save $1,200 a month. "How long did he say he could wait?" asked Sarah, trying to stay calm in front of Daniel. "Until Friday, no longer. He was even nice about it, because his wife felt sorry for us," replied Mrs. Margaret, nervously stirring the coffee. Sarah did the math in her head. She owed $1,600 in back rent. Her monthly salary would barely reach $1,100 after deducting transportation and some basic expenses. She would need a miracle. Daniel, not understanding the adult's tension, continued happily playing with his plastic cars. Every now and then, he would make engine noises with his mouth, inventing stories where he was the hero who saved everyone. "Mum, what if I looked for a weekend job?" suggested Sarah. "You already work too much, honey. You leave home at 5 in the morning and come back at 3 in the afternoon dead tired. When are you going to rest?" "I can handle it, Mom. The important thing is that we don't lose the house." Mrs. Margaret sighed. A widow for 15 years, she had raised Sarah alone, working as a seamstress in a clothing factory. When she retired, she began helping her daughter take care of Daniel, especially after Sarah's husband died in a motorcycle accident 2 years before. Outside, Marcus was still observing the modest house. A strange feeling came over him. That family had something he had lost along with Jennifer and Emily: unity, unconditional love, and hope, even in the face of the greatest difficulties. He thought of his empty house in the Upper East Side, 15 silent rooms, where he arrived every night and had no one to talk to. He thought of the money sitting in his bank account, which brought no happiness or fulfillment to the emptiness in his chest. The next day, Marcus woke up with the image of Daniel trying to hide his disappointment about the cereal. He had researched the South Bronx neighborhood online and discovered the poverty and violence rates in the area. Still, something pulled him back there. All morning, in his office in the financial district, Marcus couldn't concentrate in meetings. His secretary, Jessica, noticed he was different. "Mr. Marcus, are you all right today? You cancelled 2 important meetings and haven't touched the Greenwich construction report." "I'm fine, Jessica. Just thinking about some things." Marcus knew he needed to do something, but he didn't know what. Giving money directly would be humiliating for Sarah. He had observed her pride, the dignified way she handled difficulties. He needed a different approach. In the afternoon, he went back to the supermarket where he had met the family. He spoke with some employees and discovered that Sarah had been shopping there for over a year, always on the same day of the week, always buying basic, cheap items. The manager, Mr. William, confirmed he knew the family. Mrs. Sarah is an exemplary customer, always polite, never made a fuss about prices. We can tell she's struggling, but she has a dignity that's impressive. Her little grandson is a sweet kid, always greeting everyone. Marcus had an idea. He returned to the supermarket the next day, hoping to find her again. He wandered the aisles for over an hour until he saw them coming through the main door. This time, Marcus approached directly. "Excuse me, ma'am." Sarah turned, surprised. She recognized the well-dressed man she had seen the day before. "Yes? I'm Marcus Henderson, owner of Henderson Construction and Son. Yesterday I saw you here with your son and was impressed by his manners. I'm looking for someone to handle the cleaning of my office, and I was wondering if you might be interested in the position." Sarah was suspicious. Why would a wealthy businessman approach a stranger in a supermarket to offer a job? Besides, she already worked in 3 different places. "Thank you for the offer, but I already have work," she replied coldly. "I understand, but I urgently need someone trustworthy. The pay would be $800 a week, just 4 hours a day, Monday through Friday." Sarah almost choked. $800 a week was over $3,000 a month, almost triple what she currently earned from her 3 jobs. "Are you serious?" she asked, incredulous. "Completely. My office is in the financial district. It's small, but it needs someone dedicated and honest." "You gave me that impression yesterday." Daniel tugged at Marcus's pant leg. "Are you rich?" he asked with the typical innocence of children. Marcus smiled for the first time in months. "I'm blessed, son. And you? What's your name?" "Daniel Mitchell Anderson. I'm 6 years old and in 1st grade. My mom is the best mom in the world." Sarah turned red with embarrassment. "I'm sorry, he's very talkative with strangers." "No need to apologize. It's refreshing to talk to someone so sincere." Marcus knelt down to Daniel's level. "Do you like school?" "I do. I'm learning to read. My mum teaches me at home too, but she gets very tired at night." Sarah pulled Daniel close to her, embarrassed by her son's honesty. "Mr. Henderson, I appreciate the offer, but I can't leave my current jobs. People rely on me. What if I spoke to your current employers? I can compensate them for the loss and provide your references for other employees." The offer was too tempting to be true. Sarah had learned in life that when something seemed too good to be true, there was usually something wrong behind it. "Why me? You don't even know me." Marcus quickly thought of an answer that would sound convincing without revealing he had followed her to her home. "Yesterday I observed how patient and caring you were with your son, even in a difficult situation. That kind of character is rare these days. Besides, I'm tired of employees who lack commitment." Sarah shook her head, still suspicious. "I need to think. It's a very important decision." "Of course. Here's my card." Marcus handed over an elegant business card. "You can call when you decide. Oh, and the position comes with meal and transportation allowances." After Marcus walked away, Sarah examined the card. Henderson Construction and Son, Marcus Henderson, Chairman and CEO. The address was indeed in the financial district, an upscale area of the city. "Mommy, are you going to work for that man?" asked Daniel. "I don't know yet, sweetheart. I need to talk to Grandma Margaret first." That night, Sarah and Mrs. Margaret stayed up late talking about the mysterious proposal. Their financial situation was desperate, but both were suspicious of offers that seemed miraculous. "Carol, in my day, there was no such thing as a rich boss hunting for an employee at the supermarket. This smells fishy to me," commented Mrs. Margaret. "I think so too, Mum. But what if it's true? The money would solve all our problems. What if it's some kind of scam, or if he has other intentions?" Sarah spent the entire night unable to sleep, thinking about the offer. The next day, during her work at the public school, she spoke with Mrs. Linda, the educational coordinator who had always been a kind of advisor. "Mrs. Linda, do you believe in miracles?" "I do, dear, but I also believe we need to use the intelligence God gave us." "Why do you ask?" Sarah told her about the meeting at the supermarket and the job offer. Mrs. Linda listened carefully, asking specific questions. "He gave you the company card?" "He did." "Research this construction company on the internet. If it's real, it will have a website, known projects, records. If it's a scam, you won't find anything consistent." In the afternoon, Sarah went to an internet cafe in downtown South Bronx and researched Henderson Construction and Son. To her surprise, she found a professional website, photos of important city projects, construction industry awards, and even a magazine article about Marcus Henderson as one of New York's most promising entrepreneurs. The company had existed for over 15 years and had an annual revenue of tens of millions of dollars. Marcus appeared in the photos as a serious, successful man, but there was something sad in his eyes that she couldn't quite define. One of the articles mentioned that he had lost his family in a car accident 3 years prior and had since dedicated himself entirely to his business. Sarah felt a pang of compassion. She knew what it was like to lose a life partner. When she got home, Mrs. Margaret was nervous. Mr. Richard stopped by again. He said he can't wait any longer. He wants the money by tomorrow, or he'll have to take action. Sarah felt a tightness in her chest. She didn't have the money and couldn't get it at a moment's notice. She picked up Marcus's card and stared at it for long minutes. "Mum, I'm going to call him." "Are you sure, honey?" "I'm not sure of anything, but we have no alternative." Sarah went to the payphone on the corner and dialed the number on the card. A secretary answered politely. "Henderson Construction and Son, good morning." "Good afternoon. I'd like to speak with Mr. Marcus Henderson, please. My name is Sarah Mitchell." "One moment, please." After a few seconds, Marcus's voice came on the line. "Sarah, I'm so glad you called. Have you decided to accept the offer?" "Mr. Henderson, I really need this job. I really need. When can I start?" "How about tomorrow morning? I can send my driver to pick you up at 7. Where do you live?" Sarah hesitated. She was ashamed of her humble address. "That's not necessary. I know the way to the financial district." "Are you sure? It's quite far from where you live." How did he know where she lived? Sarah felt a strange chill but decided not to ask. "I'm sure. See you tomorrow." "See you tomorrow." "Oh, Sarah, thank you for accepting. I'm sure everything will work out." That night, Sarah laid out her best outfit, a pair of dark jeans and a simple white blouse, but clean and ironed. Mrs. Margaret helped prepare a sandwich for lunch and set aside the money for the fare. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Daniel woke up early the next day, excited about his mother's new job. "Mommy, are you going to work in a big building? With an elevator?" "Yes, my love. And if all goes well, soon we'll be able to buy that cereal you wanted." "Really?" Daniel's eyes sparkled. "Really? Now be good for Grandma Margaret and study hard at school." Sarah left home at 5:30 in the morning. The trip from the South Bronx to the financial district took almost 2 hours, with 2 transfers between buses and trains. During the journey, she prayed silently that everything would work out. The Henderson Construction and Son office was on the 12th floor of a modern commercial building on Park Avenue. Sarah had never been in such an elegant place. The marble lobby, the mirrored elevators, everything was different from her world. When she reached the correct floor, she was greeted by Jessica, the secretary who had answered the phone. "You must be Sarah. Mr. Henderson is expecting you." Jessica was a woman of about 50, well-dressed and polite, but Sarah noticed a certain look of surprise when she saw her. She probably wasn't used to employees of such humble origins. Marcus appeared in the reception area promptly at 7. "Good morning, Sarah. Did you manage to get here all right?" "Good morning, Mr. Henderson. Yes, I did. Thank you." "Great. Come, I'll show you the facilities." The office was smaller than Sarah had expected, but very elegant. There were 2 meeting rooms, Marcus's own office, the secretary's area, and a common space with leather sofas. Everything was impeccably clean and organized. "I'll be honest with you," said Marcus, showing a closet with cleaning supplies. "I have a cleaning company that comes 3 times a week, but I'm not satisfied with the service. I need someone who can take care of the details, who has a genuine care for the environment." Sarah examined the place. It was indeed clean, but she saw small details that could be improved. Some wilted plants, glass with fingerprints, carpet that needed a more thorough vacuuming. "I can take care of all of this," she said confidently. "Excellent. Your hours would be from 7 to 11 in the morning, Monday through Friday. Payment is weekly, always on Fridays. Does that sound good? Sounds perfect. Marcus showed her where all the cleaning supplies were, explained the particularities of each area, and introduced Sarah to the other employees arriving for work. Everyone was polite, but she felt curious glances. In the first few days, Sarah worked with double the effort. She always arrived 15 minutes early and only left when she was sure everything was perfect. The plants gained new life under her care. The glass became crystal clear, and even the bathrooms seemed like those of a five-star hotel. Marcus discreetly observed her work. He saw the care with which she arranged every detail, as if that space were important to her too. Gradually, the office gained a more welcoming and human feel. At the end of the first week, Marcus called Sarah for a chat. "How was your first week?" "Very good, Mr. Henderson. I like the work and the environment. And I am very satisfied with your performance. Here is your payment for the week." Marcus handed her an envelope with $800 in new bills. Sarah held the money with trembling hands. It was more money than she had seen together in a long time. "Thank you, Mr. Henderson. You don't know how much this means for my family." "I can imagine. How is your son?" Sarah was surprised he remembered Daniel. "He's fine. Excited because he'll be able to have cereal for breakfast tomorrow." She smiled timidly. Marcus felt a pang in his chest. Jennifer and Emily loved that same type of cereal. On Saturdays, they would compete to see who could eat it faster without spilling the milk. That's good. Children deserve those little joys. Over the weekend, Sarah paid the overdue rent, bought groceries for 2 weeks, and even managed to set aside some money for emergencies. Margaret couldn't believe the transformation. "Sarah, that offer really was true. May God bless that man." "Mum, I still don't understand why he offered me this job. He must have had other better options." "Sometimes we question the blessings we receive too much." Mrs. Margaret smiled. "Accept and be thankful." Daniel was radiant with the box of cereal he could finally bring home. At Saturday's breakfast, he ate slowly, savoring every spoonful, as if it were the best thing in the world. "Mummy, now that you have a good job, can we buy other things?" "Let's take it easy, sweetheart. First, we need to save some money for emergencies. Then we can think about other things." In the second week of work, Sarah began to understand the office dynamics better. Marcus always arrived at 8 o'clock, drank a black coffee, and went straight to his office, where he stayed until late at night. He spoke little with the employees, was polite but distant. Jessica commented to Sarah during a coffee break, "Mr. Henderson changed a lot after he lost his family. Before he was more cheerful, talked to everyone, even brought his little daughter here sometimes. Now he lives only for work." "What happened in the accident?" asked Sarah, curious. "A drunk driver hit their car on a Friday night. They were coming back from the girls' ballet class. Mr. Henderson was traveling for work and couldn't even say goodbye to them at the hospital." Sarah felt a profound sadness. She knew what it meant to lose a partner, but she couldn't imagine the pain of losing a child as well. From that day on, she began to observe Marcus with different eyes. She noticed he never ate lunch, only drinking coffee during the day. She saw him looking nostalgically at a small photo he kept on his desk, always turned face down when he had visitors. One morning, while cleaning his office, Sarah accidentally knocked over the photo. It was a beautiful picture of Marcus with a smiling blonde woman and a girl of about 7 with big, joyful eyes. They were all hugging, happy, on a beach. When Marcus arrived and saw Sarah putting the photo back in its place, she noticed he became tense. "I'm sorry, Mr. Henderson. I knocked it over by accident while cleaning the desk." "It's fine," he replied curtly, turning the photo face down again. Sarah finished cleaning in silence, but she felt the weight of the sadness that hung over that man. On the bus heading home, she thought about how life could be so unfair. Marcus had all the money in the world, but he had lost what truly mattered. She had almost nothing material, but she still had Daniel and Mrs. Margaret. In the third week, Sarah had an idea. She brought from home some small plant cuttings that Mrs. Margaret grew in the backyard. She discreetly planted them in little pots she bought with her own money and placed them strategically around the office. When Marcus arrived that morning, he immediately noticed the new plants. "Sarah, where did these plants come from?" She grew nervous, thinking she had done something wrong. "I'm sorry if I did something I shouldn't have. It's just that the office was so empty. I thought a little green would brighten up the place." Marcus observed the small violets and begonias scattered in the corners. Jennifer loved plants and always said they brought life to any room. "No need to apologize, it looks nice." From that day on, Marcus began to notice other small details Sarah added to the office. A different arrangement of the magazines on the coffee table, a cozier placement of the sofa cushions, a consistently pleasant scent from the natural cleaning products she brought from home. The office was becoming a more human and welcoming place, something he hadn't felt since he lost his family. On a rainy Thursday, Sarah arrived at work completely soaked. The bus had broken down on the way, and she had to run several blocks to avoid being late. Her hair was dripping water, and her clothes were clinging to her body. "My goodness, Sarah, you're soaked!" exclaimed Jessica. "The bus broke down and I didn't want to be late," she replied, trying to dry herself with a paper towel. Marcus appeared at the reception and saw the situation. "Come with me," he said, heading to the closet where he kept some spare clothes he left at the office for emergencies. He handed Sarah a clean towel and a men's shirt. "Put this on and go to the bathroom to dry off properly. I don't want you getting sick." Sarah was touched by his concern. "Thank you, Mr. Henderson. I promise it won't happen again tomorrow." Don't promise things that aren't entirely up to you. Sometimes life throws us curveballs. When Sarah returned from the bathroom, wearing the oversized shirt with her hair still damp, Marcus found her strangely familiar. The image reminded him of Jennifer after a shower, wearing his shirts as nightgowns. He shook his head, pushing away the painful memories. That day, he offered Sarah a ride to the city center, where she could more easily catch transportation home. During the quiet car ride, she observed how he drove with excessive care, always obeying all the signals. "Mr. Henderson, may I ask you a question?" "Of course." "Why did you hire me?" "Truly." Daniel thought for a few seconds before answering. "Because you reminded me that there is still kindness in the world." Sarah didn't fully understand the answer, but she felt there was something very profound behind those words. When she got home that night, she told Mrs. Margaret about Daniel's kindness. "That man is suffering, Sarah. I recognize the signs. Those of us who have lost important people know how to spot the pain in others. What do you think I should do? Nothing more than what you're already doing. Sometimes the presence of good people is the best medicine for someone who's hurting inside." The following week, Sarah arrived at the office and found Daniel talking to an older, elegantly dressed man. She greeted them discreetly and went straight to her work. "Daniel, you have to stop this obsession with work," she heard the older man's voice. "It's been 3 years since you've taken a vacation, gone out with friends, had a social life. Jennifer and Emily wouldn't want to see you like this. Dad, please, let's not talk about this here. Where shall we talk then? You don't answer my calls at home, you don't show up for Sunday lunches. Your mother is worried." Sarah tried to focus on cleaning, but she couldn't help overhearing the conversation. She discovered that was Daniel's father, probably the founder of the construction company. "I'm fine, Dad. I just need more time." 3 years is enough time to start living again. You have to get therapy, meet new people, rebuild your life. Daniel ended the conversation abruptly and locked himself in his office for the rest of the morning. Sarah saw through the crack in the door that he spent a long time looking at the family photo, this time facing up. When she finished her work and went to say goodbye, she knocked on his office door. "Mr. Daniel, I've finished everything. See you tomorrow." "Sarah, wait," he called. "Can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "How did you manage to overcome the loss of your husband?" The question caught her off guard. She didn't know he knew her story. "Well, I don't know if I've completely overcome it. I think you learn to live with the longing. But William made me keep living. He needed all of me, not a broken piece of his mother." Daniel absorbed every word. "And if there was no William? If you were completely alone?" Sarah thought for a moment. "I think I would still try to find a reason to move forward, even if it was just the hope that one day the pain would lessen a little. Have you ever thought about getting married again?" "Sometimes, but it's hard to imagine someone accepting us as we are, with all the marks life has left." Daniel nodded slowly. Thank you for being honest with me. Mr. Daniel, can I say something? You seem like a very good person. I'm sure your family would like to see you happy again. After Sarah left, Daniel kept thinking about her words. It was the first time in 3 years that someone had talked about starting over without it sounding like a demand or pressure. That weekend, he did something he hadn't done in a long time. He called some old friends and accepted an invitation to dinner. It wasn't easy, and he left early, but it was a first step. The following Monday, Sarah noticed that Daniel was different, more present, less sullen. He even commented on the improved natural lighting in the office after she rearranged the curtains. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out, now continuing. Over the next month, a comfortable routine was established between them. Daniel began to talk more, asking about William and Mrs. Margaret. Sarah, in turn, brought more life to the office with small personal touches that didn't compromise the seriousness of the professional environment. One morning, Sarah arrived at work visibly worried. Marcus noticed she was distracted, cleaning the same spot several times. Did something happen at home? He asked. Sarah hesitated before answering. Daniel's school is organizing an educational field trip to the Museum of Natural History, but it costs $60. He's been excited for weeks, but I can't save up the money. When is the trip? Next Friday. Marcus thought quickly. Emily loved school trips, and he always made sure to pay for all the extra activities. Sarah, I have a proposal. How about if I advance your pay for next week? That way you can give Daniel the money today. I can't accept an advance, Mr. Henderson. What if I can't work next week for some reason? Then consider it a bonus for the excellence of your work. A bonus? Yes, this office has never been so well taken care of. Even my clients comment on the pleasant atmosphere. Sarah felt her eyes fill with tears. Are you sure? Absolutely sure. That afternoon, Sarah arrived home with a surprise for Daniel. Son, you can start packing your bag for the field trip. Really, Mom? You got the money? Daniel jumped for joy. I did. And you know why? Because you have the best working mom in the world, Sarah joked, tickling her son. Mrs. Margaret watched the scene from afar, smiling. It had been a long time since she had seen her daughter so happy. Carol, that boss of yours is being very generous. It's true, Mom. Sometimes I wonder if I deserve such luck. You do deserve it, dear. After everything you've been through, you deserve all the happiness in the world. On Friday, Daniel went on the field trip beaming with happiness. Sarah worked with even more dedication, grateful for the opportunity Marcus had given her son. When Marcus arrived at the office that day, he found a small note on his desk. Mr. Henderson, Daniel wanted me to write you a message. He said, "Thank you, Uncle Marcus, for helping me go on the trip. Mummy said you're an angel in disguise." I think so too. Thank you for everything. Sarah. Marcus put the note in his desk drawer, along with the family photo. It was the first piece of paper he had decided to keep since the deaths of Jennifer and Emily. In the following days, Marcus found himself thinking about Sarah and Daniel often. During meetings, he wondered how the boys' trip was going. During lunch alone, he thought of the stories Sarah told about Mrs. Margaret and her simple wisdom. For the first time in 3 years, he wasn't just surviving the days, he was truly living again, even if still with some apprehension. One Thursday afternoon, Sarah received a call at the payphone on the corner. It was from Daniel's school, informing her that he had gotten sick during recess and was in the infirmary. She ran to Marcus's office, desperate. "Mr. Henderson, I need to leave early today. Daniel's school called saying he got sick." "Of course, go immediately. Do you need money for the doctor?" "I don't know what happened yet. I'll check first." "Take my card." Marcus handed over his personal card. "If you need anything, call me." Sarah took the card and ran out. Marcus felt uneasy for the rest of the afternoon, thinking about the boy. At 6 in the evening, he couldn't take it anymore and called the number on the card. "Hello, Sarah. How is Daniel?" "Mr. Henderson, I'm glad you called. It was just indigestion, nothing serious. He ate too much in the school cafeteria and got sick." Marcus sighed with relief. I'm glad it wasn't anything serious. Do you need anything? No, thank you. He's doing much better now, playing at home. Great. See you tomorrow then. Mr. Marcus? Yes? Thank you for worrying about him. That means a lot to me. After hanging up the phone, Marcus realized he had become more concerned about Daniel than he should be about an employee's child. There was something about that family that deeply affected him. On Friday, Sarah brought a drawing Daniel had made at school. It was a stick-figure drawing of a man in a suit next to a woman and a small child, all smiling. Daniel said he drew you, me, and him. Sarah showed him the paper, somewhat embarrassed. Marcus looked at the drawing for several long minutes. The child's innocence had captured something he himself couldn't admit. They looked like a family. It's a very beautiful drawing. May I keep it? Of course. Daniel will be proud. Marcus pinned the drawing on the wall behind his desk, next to a frame with the company's mission statement. Jessica noticed the new addition and was surprised. It was the first time Marcus had put anything personal in his workspace since the accident. Over the weekend, Marcus couldn't stop thinking about the Mitchell family. On Saturday night, he was eating alone in his quiet apartment when he made an impulsive decision. He took his car and drove to South Bronx. He didn't go directly to Sarah's house. He parked a few blocks away and walked through the area, observing the environment where they lived. He saw children playing in the narrow streets, families chatting in their doorways, a sense of community he had lost in his world of gated communities and social isolation. He passed by Sarah's house and saw a light on in the living room. He imagined Daniel doing homework while Sarah and Mrs. Margaret talked in the simple kitchen. The scene touched him deeply. On Sunday, Marcus called his parents for the first time in months and accepted their invitation for lunch at their house. Marcus, what a wonderful surprise! His mother, Mrs. Elizabeth, hugged him tightly. I've missed you. I've missed you too, Mom. During lunch, his parents noticed he was different, more present, less stern. Son, you look better, observed his father, James Henderson. Has something special happened? Marcus thought of Sarah and Daniel, but decided not to mention it yet. I'm just trying to take it one day at a time, like Mom always taught. Mrs. Elizabeth smiled, moved to hear her son talking about the future again. On Monday, Marcus arrived at the office earlier than usual. He wanted to talk to Sarah about something he had been thinking about over the weekend. Sarah, may I speak with you for a minute? Of course, Mr. Marcus. I've been thinking, you mentioned you have a background in accounting, right? Yes, I do, but it's been years since I worked in the field. What if I offered you a refresher course? The company has partnerships with some educational institutions. You could study in the afternoon and continue working here in the mornings. Sarah was speechless. Mr. Marcus, that would cost a lot of money. It would be a company investment. I have plans to expand the finance department and will need someone trustworthy to help. Are you serious? Completely. Of course, if you're interested. Sarah could hardly believe it. It was as if all her old dreams were coming back to life. I need to think. It's an incredible opportunity, but I have Daniel to take care of. The course would only be 3 times a week from 2 to 5 in the afternoon. You could pick up Daniel from school as usual. That night, Sarah talked at length with Mrs. Margaret about the proposal. Sarah, this man is trying to change your life for the better. I don't know why, but you can't waste a chance like this. Mom, it all seems too perfect. I'm afraid I'm dreaming. Sometimes angels appear disguised as bosses. Accept the blessing and stop questioning so much. Daniel got excited when he learned about the possibility of his mother going back to school. Mummy, are you going to become a doctor? No, my love. I'm going to learn to work better with numbers and computers. And then you'll make more money. Maybe, son. So can we move to a bigger house, with a real backyard? Sarah smiled, touched by her son's innocence. Let's take it one step at a time, Daniel. One thing at a time. On Tuesday, Sarah told Marcus of her decision. Mr. Henderson, I accept the course proposal. Excellent. I'll arrange your enrollment today. How can I repay such generosity? Marcus thought about the question for a few seconds. Keep being the honest person you are. Keep bringing life to this place. That's more than enough. The course started the following week. Sarah was nervous on the first day, but she soon adapted to the pace of the classes. It had been 15 years since she had set foot in a classroom, but her mind absorbed the information with impressive ease. The other students were younger and had modern electronic equipment. Sarah took notes in a simple notebook and borrowed the school's computers for practical activities. Even so, her grades were among the best in the class. Marcus discreetly followed her progress. He received reports from the teachers and felt proud when they praised her dedication and intelligence. On a day of heavy rain, Marcus offered Sarah a ride home after class. During the drive, she talked about the difficulties and discoveries of the course. "It's amazing how things have changed in accounting. Before it was all on paper, now it's all digital. You're adapting well. Better than I expected. Sometimes I think maybe I was born for this." "You certainly were. I've been following your performance reports." Sarah was surprised. "You follow my performance in the course?" "Of course, it's a company investment. I need to know if it's worth it." Marcus smiled for the first time since she had known him. That smile completely changed his face. Sarah realized that beneath that constant sadness there was an attractive and kind man. "You don't smile much," she commented impulsively. Marcus turned serious again. "I haven't had many reasons to smile lately." "Maybe you should look for more reasons. Life feels lighter when we smile." "Easier said than done." "I know. I've also been through times when I couldn't smile. But Daniel taught me that there's always something good happening, even on the worst days." Marcus drove in silence for a few minutes, thinking about her words. "Sarah, can I confess something?" "Of course." "You and Daniel have brought something into my life that I haven't felt in a long time. I can't quite explain what it is, but it's hope, maybe." Sarah felt her heart race. There was something in those words that went beyond the boss-employee relationship. "We're also very fond of you. Daniel always asks about you." "And you?" The question came out before Marcus could stop himself. Sarah didn't know how to respond. She had developed a special affection for Marcus, but didn't know if she should admit it. I admire you very much. You are a generous and honest person." It wasn't exactly what Marcus wanted to hear, but it was a start. When they arrived at Sarah's house, Marcus saw Daniel playing in the yard, even in the light rain that was still falling. The boy ran to the car when he recognized the driver. "Uncle Marcus, what a nice surprise. Hi, champ, how was school today?" "Cool. I learned to add big numbers. Want to see?" Daniel started doing math in his head to impress Marcus. Mrs. Margaret appeared at the door, curious to meet her daughter's famous boss. "Mom, this is Mr. Marcus, my boss." "Pleased to meet you, Mr. Marcus. Sarah speaks very highly of you." "The pleasure is mine, Mrs. Margaret. You have a wonderful daughter and grandson." "That's true. They are the treasure of my life." Marcus was invited for coffee, and he impulsively accepted. The simple house impressed him with its tidiness and cleanliness. Every object had its place. Every detail revealed the care of someone who looked after that home with love. Daniel showed his toys to Marcus, talked about school, and asked 1,000 questions about cars, buildings, and business. Marcus answered everything patiently, amused by the child's curiosity. Mrs. Margaret watched everything from a distance, noticing how Marcus looked at Sarah and how she became different in his presence. Her experienced woman's instincts picked up on something that not even they had consciously admitted yet. "Mr. Marcus, do you have a family?" asked Mrs. Margaret directly. Sarah turned red with embarrassment. "Mum, what kind of question is that?" "It's all right," Marcus replied calmly. "I had a family, Mrs. Margaret. I lost my wife and daughter in an accident 3 years ago. I'm so sorry, that must be very difficult." "It is. But being here today reminds me that there are still good things in the world." Daniel, who had stopped playing to listen to the conversation, approached Marcus. "Uncle Marcus, are you sad because your family went to heaven?" "Yes, I am, Daniel. My mom was also very sad when my dad went to heaven, but now she smiles again sometimes." Marcus looked at Sarah, whose eyes were full of tears. "And do you know why she started smiling again?" continued Daniel. "Why?" "Because she said that people who go to heaven don't want to see us sad. They want to see us happy and taking care of the people who are still here." The child's innocent wisdom touched Marcus deeply. He looked around that simple house, full of love and life, and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, a desire to be part of it. When he left that night, Marcus took with him more than he had brought. He took the certainty that it was possible to start over without forgetting the past. During the following weeks, Marcus began to visit the Mitchell family home more regularly, always with some excuse, bringing accounting books for Sarah, bringing an educational toy for Daniel, or simply having Mrs. Margaret's delicious coffee. Sarah finished her accounting course with honors. Her grades were the best in the class, and the teachers had already commented on her exceptional aptitude for the field. On the last day of class, Marcus went to pick her up personally. "Congratulations on finishing the course so successfully." "Thank you, Mr. Marcus. Without you, none of this would have been possible." "Now comes the best part. I need to talk to you about your new position at the company." "New position?" "Financial assistant, salary of $3,500, part-time hours so you can continue taking care of Daniel in the afternoon." Sarah almost fainted. It was more money than she had ever dreamed of earning. "Mr. Marcus, this is unbelievable." "It's what you deserve. Your performance reports in the course were exceptional." "When do I start?" "Next Monday. Jessica will teach you all the specific procedures of our company." That night, Sarah came home radiant. Mrs. Margaret and Daniel were euphoric with the news. "Mommy, are we rich now?" asked Daniel. "We're not rich, son, but we are much better off than before." "And can we move to a bigger house?" Sarah looked around the little house that had been her home for so many years. It was simple, but it was where they had built their best memories. "Yes, we can, but first I'm going to save some money and research carefully." Mrs. Margaret pulled her daughter aside. "Sarah, that man isn't doing this just out of professionalism. He likes you." "Mom, don't say that. He's my boss." "Boss nothing. He's a man who fell in love with an honest, hard-working woman. And you like him too, even if you don't want to admit it." Sarah knew her mother was right, but she was afraid. The social difference between them was huge, and she didn't want to be seen as a gold digger. On Monday, Sarah started her new role. The financial assistance office was next to Marcus's, and they worked in constant collaboration. She learned quickly and was soon proposing improvements to the company's processes. Marcus was impressed by her practical intelligence. Sarah could simplify complex procedures and found errors that had gone unnoticed for years. In no time, she became indispensable to the functioning of the finance department. The other employees, who initially distrusted her rapid rise, began to respect her for the competence she demonstrated. One Friday afternoon, Marcus called Sarah for a talk. "I need to confess something to you." Sarah noticed he had used "you" instead of "ma'am" for the first time. "Go ahead." "When I found you in that supermarket, it wasn't by chance. I had already noticed you working in the building where one of my offices is." Sarah was confused. "Which building?" "The Benjamin Franklin building in Williamsburg. You used to clean there on Tuesdays and Thursdays." Sarah remembered. She had indeed worked in that building for a few months. "I always arrived early and saw you working with such care, even in a tough job. I became curious about your story. Is that why you offered me the job?" "Initially, yes, but then I discovered you are so much more than I imagined. You are intelligent, honest, caring. You reminded me that there is still beauty in the world." Sarah felt her heart race. "Mr. Marcus, please call me Marcus. Marcus, I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything now. I just wanted you to know the truth." That night, Sarah could barely sleep. Marcus's words echoed in her mind. She had also developed feelings for him, but she didn't know if they were reciprocated or if it was just gratitude. Mrs. Margaret noticed her daughter's restlessness. "Sarah, talk to him. You both deserve to be happy." "Mom, what if he just feels sorry for me?" "Sorry, honey. A rich man doesn't invest so much time and money in a person out of pity. That's love." On Saturday, Marcus called Sarah. "Do you have any plans for tomorrow?" "Plans? Doe, why?" "I wanted to take you to see Central Park. Daniel said he's never been." "Marcus, you don't have to." "I want to. Please let me give you this outing." Sarah accepted. mainly thinking of the happiness it would bring Daniel. On Sunday morning, Marcus arrived driving a smaller, more discreet car than the BMW. He didn't want to draw unnecessary attention in the neighborhood. Daniel jumped for joy when he saw they were going to the park. "Uncle Marcus, can we go on the paddle boats?" "We'll do everything you want, champ." Mrs. Margaret stayed home, claiming she preferred to rest, but she really wanted to give the three of them space to be together. The outing to Central Park was magical. Daniel ran across the lawns, fed the ducks in the pond, and asked to take a picture at every monument. Marcus bought popcorn, cotton candy, and ice cream, spoiling the child like a father would. Sarah watched everything, moved. She saw how Marcus and Daniel connected naturally, as if they had been family for years. "You're a natural father," she commented, while Daniel played on the playground. "I was a father," Marcus replied melancholically. "And you could be again if you wanted." Marcus looked deeply into her eyes. "With you?" Sarah blushed but didn't look away. "If that's what you want, it's all I want, but I'm afraid I'm being selfish. You both deserve someone who doesn't carry so much weight from the past." "Marcus, we all carry weight from the past. The important thing is finding people who help us carry it." In the late afternoon, when they were heading home, Daniel fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from so much fun. Marcus and Sarah talked quietly during the drive. "Sarah, can I be direct with you?" "You can. I've fallen in love with you. I don't know exactly when it happened, but I know it did." Sarah felt tears in her eyes. "I've fallen in love with you too, but I'm afraid..." "Afraid of what?" "Afraid that it's just gratitude on my part. Afraid that people will say I'm a gold digger. Afraid of not being enough for you." Marcus stopped the car on a quiet street and turned to her. "Sarah, you saved me. I was dead inside, just existing. You and Daniel brought me back to life. If anyone owes gratitude here, it's me. And people, what will they think? The people who matter will be happy for our happiness. The others don't matter." Sarah looked at Daniel sleeping peacefully in the back seat. He deserved to have a father figure in his life, and she deserved to have a partner to share dreams and challenges with. "Marcus, I need time to process all this." "Of course. There's no hurry. I want you to be sure of your feelings." In the following weeks, Marcus respected the space Sarah had asked for, but continued to be present in their lives. He took Daniel to soccer games, helped with homework, and always found excuses to be around. Sarah watched every gesture, every look, every bit of care he showed her son. She realized it wasn't an obligation or charity. It was genuine love. On a Thursday night, Mrs. Margaret fell ill. She had a high blood pressure crisis and needed to be rushed to the hospital. Sarah was desperate, torn between caring for her mother at the hospital and not leaving Daniel alone. Marcus didn't hesitate. He took full care of Daniel, taking him to his home in the Upper East Side so Sarah could stay at the hospital without worries. For 2 days, Daniel stayed at Marcus's house. The boy marveled at the size and luxury of the apartment, but what impressed him most was Marcus's kindness and patience. "Uncle Marcus, your house is very beautiful, but it seems kind of empty," commented Daniel. "Why?" "It doesn't have the sound of family. At my house there's always someone talking, laughing, or cooking something." Marcus realized the boy had identified exactly what was missing in his life. When Mrs. Margaret was discharged, and Sarah could pick up Daniel, she found the two of them cooking together in Marcus's kitchen. "Mommy, Uncle Marcus taught me how to make an omelette." Sarah was moved to see how they had connected even more during those 2 days. "How is Mrs. Margaret?" asked Marcus. "Better. The doctor said it was just a scare, but she needs special care with her diet and medication. If you need help with the costs." "No, Marcus. I can pay for that with my new salary." Marcus respected her independence, but secretly spoke with the doctor to ensure Mrs. Margaret had the best possible treatment. That night, when they were alone in the living room while Daniel watched cartoons in the bedroom, Sarah finally made a decision. "Marcus, I've thought about our conversation." "And did you reach a conclusion?" "I did. I love you. Not out of gratitude, not for convenience. I love you for the person you are, for the affection you show Daniel, and for the way you make me feel complete again." Marcus kissed her for the first time. It was a gentle kiss, full of tenderness and promises for the future. "I love you too, Sarah. More than I thought it was possible to love again." They remained embraced for long minutes, silently planning the future they would build together. Daniel appeared in the living room, sleepy. "Mommy, can I sleep here tonight? I liked the room Uncle Marcus prepared for me." Sarah looked at Marcus, who nodded immediately. "Yes, you can, my love." That night, for the first time in years, Marcus did not feel alone in his home. There was life, there was love, there was family again. The following months were of adaptation and discoveries. Marcus was introduced to Sarah's neighbors as her boyfriend and was received with affection by the community. Mrs. Margaret recovered completely and began treating Marcus like a son. Sarah and Daniel moved to a larger apartment in the east side, in a better neighborhood, but kept Mrs. Margaret always close by. Marcus respected her wish not to abandon her roots. At the company, Sarah continued growing professionally. Her innovative ideas helped the construction company significantly increase its revenue. Marcus created a new position, especially for her: financial manager. 1 year after the first meeting at the supermarket, Marcus asked Sarah to marry him. The proposal was simple, made in the same house in South Bronx where everything began, with Daniel and Mrs. Margaret as witnesses. "Sarah Mitchell, will you marry me and form an official family with me?" "I do," she answered, with tears of happiness in her eyes. Daniel jumped for joy. "Now I'm going to have a real father." "You always had a father who loved you very much," Marcus corrected gently. "Now you will have 2 fathers who love you." The wedding was celebrated at the neighborhood church where Sarah had grown up. Marcus insisted it be a simple but meaningful party, with all the friends and neighbors who had accompanied the Mitchell family during the difficult years. Marcus's parents, initially surprised by their son's choice, soon became enchanted with Sarah and Daniel. Mrs. Elizabeth gained the grandson she always wanted to spoil, and James Henderson found in Sarah the perfect daughter-in-law, intelligent, hard-working, and who made his son smile again. The honeymoon was at a simple inn on the Jersey Shore. Marcus and Sarah took Daniel because they couldn't imagine special moments without him. On the beach, while Daniel played in the sand, Marcus and Sarah talked about the future. "Sometimes I still can't believe all this is real," said Sarah. "It is real. And it's just the beginning. We have a whole life ahead of us to be happy. Don't you miss your previous life? The luxurious apartment? The expensive restaurants?" "I don't miss anything. I discovered that happiness has nothing to do with money, but with the people we love." Daniel ran to them, all wet from the seawater. "Dad, Marcus, come play with us." It was the first time Daniel had called him Dad. Marcus felt an indescribable emotion take over him. "I'm coming, son. I'm coming." As they played in the water, Marcus looked at the sky and whispered a silent prayer to Jennifer and Emily, thanking them for allowing him to be happy again and promising to honor their memory by being a good husband and father to his new family. Sarah watched Marcus play with Daniel and knew she had made the right decision. That man had not only changed her life materially, but had become the love of her life and the father Daniel needed. Mrs. Margaret, who had stayed taking care of the new house Marcus had bought for the family in Queens, a middle-class neighborhood on the east side, awaited them with a special dinner. The house had 3 bedrooms, a backyard, and was on a quiet street, perfect for Daniel to grow up in. In the first year of marriage, Sarah became pregnant. Marcus was euphoric and nervous at the same time. It was his chance to be a father again, but it also awakened painful memories. Daniel was thrilled about the arrival of a little brother. "Mom, will he be just like me?" "Maybe yes, maybe not. Every child is unique." "And will Dad Marcus love him as much as he loves me?" "Yes, he will, my love. A parent's heart has room to love all children equally." During the pregnancy, Marcus was an exemplary husband. He attended every appointment, lovingly set up the baby's room, and read stories to Sarah's belly every night. When Olivia was born, a little girl with dark hair and big eyes like her mother's, Marcus cried with emotion. He held his daughter in his arms and felt that God had given him a second chance to be completely happy. Daniel became the most protective brother in the world. He helped change diapers, sang Olivia to sleep, and always wanted to carry his little sister in his arms. The family grew in harmony. Sarah balanced her work at the company with motherhood, always counting on the support of Marcus and Mrs. Margaret. The grandmother was overjoyed to have another granddaughter to spoil. 5 years after the wedding, Marcus surprised Sarah with an unexpected proposal. "What do you think about opening our own financial consulting firm?" "Our own firm? You have all the necessary knowledge. I have the contacts. We could form a perfect partnership." The idea excited Sarah. After years of working for others, she dreamed of having something of her own. Mitchell and Henderson Financial Consulting was born 2 months later in a modest commercial space in downtown New York. Sarah handled the technical side, Marcus the business relationships. The business grew quickly. Sarah's competence and Marcus's reputation in the market attracted important clients. In no time, they needed to move to a larger office and hire employees. Daniel, now 12, dreamed of working at his parents' company when he grew up. Olivia, at 5, was already showing signs of having inherited her parents' intelligence, always asking questions about numbers and money. One afternoon, while organizing old office files, Sarah found the note she had written for Marcus years ago, when Daniel went on the school trip. Marcus had kept it all these years. "You still have this?" she asked, moved. "It's my most precious treasure. It was when I realized you two had changed my life forever." Sarah hugged her husband, remembering how it all started in that supermarket. "If someone had told me back then that I would be this happy today, I wouldn't have believed it." "Sometimes miracles come disguised as a difficult moment," Marcus philosophized. "If you hadn't gone through hardships, you would never have gone to that supermarket. If I hadn't lost my first family, I would never have valued a second chance so much." "Do you believe that the people who left us are happy when they see us happy again?" "I'm sure of it. True love always wants the best for those who remain." That night, after putting Olivia to bed and helping Daniel with his homework, Marcus and Sarah sat in their backyard, watching the stars. "Marcus, I have a confession to make." "Go ahead." "That first time you offered me help at the supermarket, a part of me desperately wanted to accept, but my pride wouldn't let me. And today, do you regret refusing?" "No. If I had accepted that day, you might have thought I was a gold digger. The fact that I refused proved my character was real, and that's what made me sure you were special. Do you know the moment I knew I was falling in love with you?" "When?" "When I saw you playing with Daniel on the first day you took us to Central Park. I saw you weren't pretending. You were really having fun, as if he were your own son." "That's because he is my own son. From the very first day, just like Olivia, just like you are my soulmate." They fell silent for a few minutes, each lost in their own memories and gratitude. Mrs. Margaret, now 78 but still sharp and active, appeared on the porch. "Aren't you two going to sleep? You have work tomorrow." "We're going, Mom," replied Sarah. "We were just talking about how blessed we are." "Truly blessed," agreed Mrs. Margaret. "But the blessings came because you knew how to recognize each other's worth. Not everyone has that wisdom." Before bed, Marcus still performed his usual routine, checking that Daniel and Olivia were tucked in, giving each a kiss on the forehead and whispering that he loved them. Sarah watched from the bedroom door, moved as always by his paternal affection. "You are a wonderful father," she whispered when he came out of the children's rooms. "I learned from the best example, watching how you raised Daniel alone all those difficult years." In the couple's bedroom, before falling asleep in each other's arms as they did every night, Sarah reflected. "Marcus, sometimes I think about how many families out there are going through the same hardships I went through. How many mothers are having to explain to their children that they can't buy the cereal they want. That's true. And would you like to do something to help those families?" "I would. But how?" "We could create a social project through our company. Offer free financial education courses for low-income families. Teach people how to better organize their finances so they can have a more dignified life." The idea excited Sarah immediately. "That would be perfect. We could start in the South Bronx, where I grew up. Let's plan it. It will be our way of giving back for the blessings we've received. The Financial Family Project was launched 6 months later. Sarah and Marcus offered free lectures on family financial planning, always on weekends in schools and community centers in outlying neighborhoods. Daniel and Olivia always accompanied their parents to these activities, learning from an early age the importance of solidarity and sharing. One of the project's first participants was Rachel, a single mother of 3 who worked as a house cleaner. Her story was very similar to Sarah's from years before. "Mrs. Mitchell, do you think I can get out of this situation?" asked Rachel after one of the lectures. "I'm sure you can. I was exactly in your situation a few years ago. The important thing is not to give up and to seek knowledge to improve." Sarah briefly told her story to Rachel, who was inspired to learn that this successful businesswoman had come from the same reality. "The difference is that you found a Prince Charming," joked Rachel. "The Prince Charming appeared because I never stopped fighting. If I had given up, if I had stayed home feeling sorry for myself, I would never have gone to that supermarket on the right day." Rachel became one of the project's most dedicated students. Within a year, she managed to organize her finances, complete a vocational course, and open a small business selling homemade baked goods. Stories like Rachel's multiplied. The Financial Family Project gained recognition and spread to other city neighborhoods. Marcus and Sarah were invited to give lectures at universities, speaking about social entrepreneurship and life transformation through financial education. During one of these lectures at Columbia University, an economics student asked a question that deeply marked Sarah. "Professor Mitchell, what was the most difficult moment in your journey?" Sarah thought for a few seconds before answering. "It was when I had to explain to my 6-year-old son that he couldn't get the cereal he wanted because I didn't have the money. In that moment, I felt I had failed as a mother." "And what was the turning point?" "When I realized I hadn't failed, I had merely encountered a temporary difficulty. From that day on, I used the pain as fuel to fight for a better life." After the lecture, several students approached to talk with her. Sarah always received them with affection, remembering when she herself was returning to study after years away. On the way back home, Marcus commented, "You speak with an authority that only someone who has lived it can have. That's why your words touch people so deeply. Sometimes I'm afraid I might sound like I'm romanticizing poverty. I don't want people to think it's easy to go through hardship. You're not romanticizing anything. You show that it's possible to overcome. It's different." That same year, Sarah received an invitation to write a book telling her story. Initially reluctant, she ended up accepting after talking with Marcus and Mrs. Margaret. "Sarah, your story can inspire thousands of people," argued Mrs. Margaret. "It's a moral duty to share it." The book, From the Supermarket Aisle to Success, was launched 2 years later and became a bestseller. Sarah donated all the proceeds from sales to organizations that worked with families in socially vulnerable situations. During the book launch at a bookstore in downtown New York, a woman approached Sarah with tears in her eyes. "Mrs. Mitchell, I want to thank you. I read the synopsis of your book in a magazine and identified with it so much that I started fighting again. I got a better job and my daughter got a scholarship at a private university." "What's your daughter's name?" asked Sarah. "Amanda. She wants to study business administration to be an entrepreneur like you." Sarah felt a deep emotion upon realizing her story was truly making a difference in other people's lives. Daniel, now 15, was already showing interest in the family business. He spent afternoons at the company, learning about administration and customer relations. "Dad, I want to take over the company when I grow up, but I also want to expand the social project." "What kind of expansion do you imagine?" asked Marcus. "Creating a network of financial education schools across the country, offering scholarships to people like Mom was before." Marcus smiled, proud of the compassionate mindset his son had developed. Olivia, at 8 years old, already showed an aptitude for numbers and always played businesswoman with her dolls, organizing small imaginary businesses. "Mommy, when I grow up, I want to have a company with only women," she declared one day. "Why only women?" asked Sarah. "Because women are more organized and take better care of money." Sarah and Marcus laughed at the childish logic, but recognized that Olivia had observed real patterns in women's behavior regarding finances. The company Mitchell and Henderson grew so much that they needed to open branches in other cities. Sarah supervised the technical part of all units, while Marcus handled the strategic expansion. Mrs. Margaret, at 80 years old, still lived with the family and was the main person responsible for keeping everyone connected. It was she who organized the Sunday lunches, remembered birthdays, and told stories of the past to the grandchildren. "Grandma Margaret, tell again how Mommy and Daddy met," Olivia would always ask. "Once upon a time there was a warrior princess who fought alone to take care of her little son. One day, a sad prince saw her being brave in a supermarket and realized she had a heart of gold." The story always ended with everyone laughing and hugging, grateful for the family they had managed to build together. One Sunday afternoon, 10 years after the wedding, the family was gathered in the backyard for the traditional barbecue when Marcus made an unexpected announcement. "Everyone, I have some news to share. We've decided to create a foundation." "What kind of foundation?" asked Daniel. "The Mitchell-Henderson Foundation will offer microcredit to single mothers who want to start small businesses. It will also give scholarships to their children." Sarah added, "We want to help other families have the same opportunities we had." Olivia jumped for joy. "Can I help choose the families?" "When you're older, yes," replied Marcus. Mrs. Margaret was moved by the project. "You are honoring everything you've been through. That makes me very proud." The Mitchell-Henderson Foundation was officially launched on the 15th anniversary of their first meeting at the supermarket. Sarah insisted the ceremony be held in that same supermarket, now renovated and modernized. During the event, Marcus gave a speech to journalists, business people, and project beneficiaries. 15 years ago, in this very place, I was lost in my own sadness when I witnessed an act of pure love. A mother tenderly explaining to her son why she couldn't buy a simple box of cereal. That woman taught me that true wealth isn't in what we have, but in what we do with love for the people who matter. Sarah was moved hearing her husband's words. She looked at Daniel, now a 19-year-old young man about to start college, and at Olivia, a smart and determined 12-year-old girl. "Can you guys believe all this started because I didn't have 15 rays to buy a box of cereal?" commented Sarah, drawing laughter from everyone. "Mom, maybe that cereal was the most expensive in history," joked Daniel. "It cost 15 rays, but it was worth a lifetime of happiness." The audience applauded the young man's spontaneity. After the ceremony, the family went to dinner at the restaurant where Marcus and Sarah had their first official romantic date years ago. "Dad, can I make a confession?" said Daniel during dinner. "Of course, son. I always knew you two would end up together, even before you realized it." "How so?" asked Sarah, curious. "I saw how Dad Marcus looked at you, and I saw how you were different when he was around. You completed each other in an obvious way, at least to a kid who just wanted to see his mom happy." Olivia interrupted. "And I'm going to marry someone like Daddy when I grow up, someone who is kind and likes kids." Marcus was moved. "Olivia, you deserve to find someone who loves you exactly as you are, with all your dreams and qualities. Just like you did with Mommy. Exactly like that." Driving home that night, Sarah reflected on the incredible journey they had lived. "Marcus, if we could go back in time, would you change anything?" "Yes, I would. I would have approached you that first day at the supermarket. That way we would have had more time together. I wouldn't change a thing. Everything happened at the right time, in the right way. Our difficulties prepared us to value what we have today. You're right. The scars taught us to better care for the wounds of others." When they got home, they found Mrs. Margaret in the living room, looking at old photo albums. "What are you looking at there, Mum?" asked Sarah. "Photos from when you got married. I was remembering how beautiful you looked, my daughter. You always said I would find someone special, because I saw the strong woman you were inside. I knew any smart man would recognize your worth." Marcus joined them to look at the photos. There were pictures of the simple church wedding, the reception in the parish hall, the first moments as an official family. "Look here," Mrs. Margaret pointed to a photo where Marcus was dancing with Daniel. "At this moment I was certain you would be happy forever." "Why this photo in particular?" asked Marcus. "Because I saw you looking at that boy the way a real father looks at his son." It wasn't an obligation. It wasn't charity. It was pure love. Daniel, who had overheard the conversation, approached the group. "Grandma Margaret, can I confess something?" "Of course, my grandson." "When I was little, sometimes I pretended to be asleep when Dad Marcus came to say goodnight. I wanted to hear him whisper that he loved me. That gave me a security I had never felt before." Marcus hugged Daniel, moved. "I always wanted you to know you were loved, from the very first day. I always knew, and it changed my life." Olivia, who was playing in her room, appeared in her pajamas. "Why is everyone crying?" "We're not crying, Princess," said Sarah. "We're just remembering how grateful we are to be a family. I'm grateful too, mostly because I have the best daddy in the world and the best big brother in the world." The family hugged in a circle, each silently giving thanks for the blessings they had received. Before they slept, Marcus and Sarah did their usual routine, checking on the children, organizing the next day's schedule, and talking about the Foundation's projects. "Sarah, I have an idea to expand our social work." "What idea?" "How about we create a product line where part of the profit goes to the Foundation? We could start with children's books that teach financial education." "I love the idea." Olivia could even illustrate some stories. "And Daniel could write some narratives based on real cases we've followed. Our whole family involved in helping other families. It would be perfect." They fell asleep, planning ways to expand the positive impact they could have on the world. The next morning during breakfast, Marcus announced the news to the children. "What do you think about helping to create a collection of children's books about money and family?" Olivia was excited. "Can I draw the covers?" "Of course you can." Daniel thought for a few seconds. "Can I write about families like ours, who went through difficulties but managed to overcome them? It would be perfect. Each book can tell a different story, but all with a happy ending." The book project became a family weekend activity. Olivia drew colorful, expressive characters. Daniel wrote touching but age-appropriate stories. Sarah reviewed the educational content, and Marcus handled the publishing side. The first book, The Girl Who Learned to Count Dreams, told the story of a child who helped her mother organize the family's finances through little math games. The success was immediate. Schools began adopting the books in their curricula, and parents reported that the stories helped them talk about money with their children in a playful way. The revenue from the books allowed the Foundation to expand its activities. They now also offered basic computer courses, women's entrepreneurship classes, and a mentorship program for low-income youth. Daniel, now studying business administration at Columbia University, dedicated his mornings to studies and his afternoons to work at the Foundation. His specialty was identifying and mentoring young talents who needed opportunities. Olivia, at 15, had already illustrated 12 books in the collection and dreamed of studying graphic design. Her drawings were noted for their sensitivity in portraying complex family situations in a hopeful way. The family had become an example of overcoming adversity and solidarity in New York. They received invitations to participate in television programs, give lectures in other cities, and advise on public policies related to family financial education. But what made Marcus and Sarah most proud was knowing they had raised children who were aware of their own privilege and willing to use their opportunities to help others. On a Saturday afternoon, while organizing donations for the families supported by the Foundation, Marcus found a box of cereal that had been donated by a partner supermarket. "Sarah, come see this." It was the same brand of cereal Daniel had wanted on that fateful day at the supermarket 15 years earlier. "Do you remember?" asked Marcus. "How could I forget? That's when our story truly began." "You know what I think is funny?" "What?" "If I had known that day everything that would happen later, I would have bought the whole supermarket for you," Marcus joked. "And that's exactly why you didn't, because you respected our dignity." Daniel, who was organizing the donated products, overheard the conversation. "Can I confess something about that cereal?" "Go ahead," his parents replied in unison. "I didn't want that cereal so much. I just wanted to see Mom happy buying something special for me. The important thing was never the product, it was the affection." Sarah hugged her son, moved by his wisdom. "And you know you've always had all our affection, right?" I've always known. Even when we didn't have money, we never lacked love. Olivia joined the family hug. And now we can buy as much cereal as we want, but I still prefer your hugs. Marcus watched his gathered family, reflecting on how destiny had mysterious ways of bringing together people who needed each other. That night, like all the others, Marcus and Sarah talked before bed about plans for the next day, for the week, for their children's future and the foundations. Marcus, sometimes I'm afraid all this happiness is too good to be true. I used to think that way too at first, but over time I learned that we deserve all the happiness we've managed to build with love and honest work. You don't feel that guilt anymore for being happy again? I don't. Jennifer and Emily knew me better than anyone. They never wanted me to be alone and sad forever. I'm sure they were happy when I found you. And I'm sure that David, my first husband, would also approve of our family. He always said I deserved to be very happy. They fell asleep holding hands, as they had every night since their marriage, grateful for having found in each other not just a companion, but a partner for all of life's dreams and challenges. The next day, Sunday, the family followed their tradition of visiting the cemetery where David, Sarah's first husband, and Jennifer and Emily, Marcus's first family, were buried. It was a ritual they had created to keep alive the memory of the people they loved before, and to show the children that true love never dies, it only transforms. Daniel always brought flowers to his biological father's grave and told him about his progress in his studies. Olivia drew little letters for the sister she never met, but always imagined she would have liked to have. Dad David, this year I'm graduating from college. Dad Marcus is helping me set up a project to help young people like you would have wanted me to be helped, said Daniel, kneeling before the grave. Jennifer and Emily, our Olivia is becoming an amazing artist. I think you would have gotten along very well if you could have met, Marcus whispered to the two side-by-side headstones. Sarah watched the scene and felt a deep peace. There was no competition between the past and the present. There was only gratitude for all the loves that had passed through their lives. Thank you for taking care of our hearts before we found each other, she whispered, hugging Marcus and the children. On the way home, they stopped at the same supermarket where it all began. Now it was a tradition. Once a month they would shop there and always walk down the cereal aisle, remembering how destiny can manifest in the simplest moments. The supermarket manager, Mr. William, already knew them and always made a point of greeting them. Mrs. Sarah, how are the Foundation's projects going? Very well, Mr. William. Next week we're going to inaugurate our 5th unit. How wonderful! You've become an example for the whole neighborhood. Daniel chose some products for donation, and Olivia separated the cereals they would take home. Mom, can I get 2 different kinds? Asked Olivia. You can get as many as you want, sweetheart, replied Sarah, smiling as she remembered that this was now a worry of the past. Marcus watched his family in the supermarket and marveled at the normality of that moment. Years ago, he never would have imagined it possible to be so happy doing something as simple as Sunday shopping. Back at the house in Queens, Mrs. Margaret was waiting for them with the traditional Sunday lunch. At 83, she still insisted on cooking for the family, claiming it was her way of showing love. Grandma, you don't have to cook so much anymore. We can order takeout, Olivia always suggested. As long as my hands can stir the beans, I'll keep cooking for you. It's my joy. During lunch, the conversation turned to plans for the school holidays. Daniel wanted to do a study abroad program on social management. Olivia wished to participate in an illustration workshop, and Marcus and Sarah were planning a family trip to the southeast. We're going to see social projects similar to ours in other regions, explained Marcus. It could be inspiring for expanding our activities. And can I draw the different landscapes? Asked Olivia. Of course you can. In fact, how about we make a travel book illustrated by our official artist? The idea excited the whole family. It would be a way to document the trip and also create educational content about American cultural diversity. Mrs. Margaret listened to the plans with satisfaction. You all know how to take opportunities to learn and help. That makes me very proud. We learned from you, Grandma Margaret, said Daniel. You always taught us that a good life is a useful life. Exactly. There's no point in having a lot if it doesn't do any good for anyone. After lunch, while the children studied and Mrs. Margaret rested, Marcus and Sarah sat in the backyard to plan the week. "You know what amazes me most about our story?" commented Sarah. "What?" "How a situation that embarrassed me so much became the foundation of our happiness. The shame was unnecessary. You were struggling, not begging. But at the time I couldn't see the difference. Because you were focused on the immediate difficulty. You couldn't see the bigger picture. And you? What amazes you most?" Marcus thought for a few minutes. "I'm amazed at how every small choice led to giant changes. If I hadn't woken up early that day, if you had chosen another supermarket, if Daniel hadn't asked for that specific cereal, any different detail, and maybe we would never have met." "Do you believe in destiny?" "I believe some people are born to meet, maybe not in that supermarket, but somehow our paths would have crossed." "I believe that too. Sometimes I feel like David and Jennifer conspired from above for us to meet." Marcus smiled, touched by the idea. That would be very typical of Jennifer to do something like that. She was always one to positively interfere in other people's lives. They were silent for a few minutes, each lost in memories and reflections. "Marcus, can I ask you a very personal question?" "You always can." "Do you still dream of them sometimes?" "I do. But now they're good dreams. They appear happy, approving of our family. And you? Do you dream of David?" "Sometimes. He always appears thanking me for taking good care of Daniel and for finding someone who truly loves us. How wonderful that our deceased visit us in peace. It's a sign we've lived correctly." Olivia appeared on the porch, interrupting the contemplative moment. "Dad, Mom, I finished my homework. Can I show the drawing I made for the next book?" "Of course, Princess," replied Marcus. The drawing showed a large family around a bountiful table with various kinds of food, including a box of cereal in the center. "It's about families who learn to take good care of money and can now buy tasty food for everyone," explained Olivia. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," praised Sarah. "What will the title of this story be?" "The Table That Grew with Love." Marcus and Sarah exchanged emotional glances. Their daughter's sensitivity in capturing the essence of the family's transformations was impressive. "Olivia, you have a special talent for understanding what really matters in life," said Marcus. "I learned from you. You always talk about how love makes everything grow." Daniel joined the family on the porch, carrying some college books. "Dad, Mom, can I share some news?" "Of course," they replied in unison. "I was selected to present a project on microcredit at the National Social Economics Congress. I'll be representing our foundation." Marcus stood up and hugged his son, proud. "Daniel, that's wonderful. You deserve all this recognition." "I succeeded because I had the best teachers at home. I learned about social economics by living it." Sarah was moved hearing her son's words. "And what's the focus of your project?" "How microcredit combined with financial education can break cycles of poverty. I'm going to use our own family as the main case study." "Is it okay to expose our story like that?" asked Sarah, concerned. "Of course it is. Our story is inspiring. I'm not at all ashamed to tell how our life was before, and how we managed to transform it." Olivia supported her brother. "It's true, Mom. Our story can help other families believe they can change too." Marcus watched his children defending the importance of sharing their own experiences and felt immense pride in the social consciousness they had developed. "You're right. Our story only makes sense if it can serve as an example for others." Mrs. Margaret appeared on the porch, waking from her afternoon nap. "What are you all talking about with such enthusiasm?" "Daniel is going to present our story at a national congress, Grandma," Olivia told her excitedly. "How wonderful. I always said you had a story too beautiful to stay just within the family." "Grandma Margaret, would you like to accompany me to the Congress?" invited Daniel. "Me? In that place full of doctors?" "You are the wisest person I know. It would be an honor to have you there." "Mrs." Margaret was touched by her grandson's invitation. "If you think an old lady like me can contribute, you can. You'll tell how you raised Mom alone and how you taught the values that brought us here." Mrs. Margaret's participation in the Congress was an absolute success. Her simple wisdom and precise words impressed academics and public managers. It's no use giving a fish if you don't teach how to fish, but it's also no use teaching how to fish if the person has no hook. You have to give both, she said during her speech, drawing enthusiastic applause from the audience. Daniel's presentation was equally impactful. He told the family's story with emotion, but also with concrete data on the impact of the social projects they had developed. Several organizations and city halls approached the foundation after the Congress, interested in replicating the methodology in other regions. Marcus and Sarah watched their son's presentation online as they couldn't travel due to company commitments. "Our son is shining," commented Marcus, watching Daniel answer audience questions with confidence and knowledge. "And Grandma Margaret is stealing the show," laughed Sarah, seeing her mother-in-law interacting naturally with the conference attendees. "She's right about the fishing hook. Sometimes we worry so much about teaching that we forget to provide the basic tools. That's why our foundation works. We offer both things." The success at the conference opened new doors for the family. They received invitations to advise the federal government on creating public policies for family financial education. Sarah was invited to join the National Microcredit Council. Marcus began lecturing at international universities on social entrepreneurship, and Daniel earned a scholarship to pursue a master's in social economics in Europe. "Guys, are we growing too fast?" worried Sarah during a family meeting. "Why?" asked Marcus. "I'm afraid we'll lose touch with the reality we came from, of becoming those people who talk about poverty but live in a bubble." Daniel reassured his mother, "Mom, as long as we keep visiting the families we assist, working directly with those in need, we'll never lose that connection." Olivia agreed. "It's true. And whenever I draw for the books, I think of the children who will read them. That keeps me connected." Mrs. Margaret had the final word. "You will never forget where you came from because you carry the marks of the struggle in your heart. That doesn't disappear with success. It only disappears with vanity. And you are not vain." The conversation was interrupted by the phone. It was an international call. Daniel had been selected to represent the United States at a world forum on poverty eradication. "I accept, but on one condition," he said after hearing the proposal. "What condition?" asked the organizers. "I want to take my grandmother with me. She has more wisdom about overcoming poverty than any academic." The condition was accepted, and Mrs. Margaret, at 84 years old, got her first passport to represent the United States at an international event. "I never imagined I'd leave the South Bronx neighborhood to speak with important people from all over the world," she commented, moved. "Grandma, you've always been important. The world is just discovering it now," said Olivia affectionately. The trip of Daniel and Mrs. Margaret was a milestone for the family. They returned with invitations to expand the foundation internationally and partnership proposals with global social development organizations. "It seems like a dream," said Sarah upon hearing the travel reports. "It is a dream, but a dream that became reality because you all worked very hard for it," replied Mrs. Margaret. Marcus watched his family expanding horizons and felt a deep gratitude. From a difficult conversation about cereal in the supermarket to representing the country internationally, the journey had been extraordinary. "You know what makes me proudest?" he said during dinner. "What?" everyone asked in unison. "Seeing that you've grown but haven't changed. You're still the same humble and caring people you've always been." "Because we had the best examples," replied Daniel, looking at his parents and grandmother. Olivia raised her glass of juice. "A toast to the family that started with cereal and became an international network of love." Everyone laughed and toasted, celebrating not only the professional successes, but especially the bonds that united them. That night, Marcus and Sarah had their usual bedtime conversation, reflecting on the day and planning the future. "Marcus, sometimes I'm afraid I'm dreaming and will wake up back in that little house in South Bronx counting coins to buy bread. If that happened, you would fight again and win again, because your strength doesn't come from circumstances, it comes from who you are. What if I lost you and the kids, as you won't, but if you did, you'd carry our love as strength to keep going, just as you did with David, just as I did with Jennifer and Emily. You know what I've learned on this journey." "What?" "That happiness isn't a destination, it's a path. We didn't arrive at a place where we're happy. We learned to be happy while walking." Marcus kissed his wife's forehead, moved by her wisdom. And that's why our happiness is solid. It doesn't depend on external circumstances, but on how we choose to live. They fell asleep in each other's arms, as every night, grateful to have found in each other not just a love, but a partner for all the adventures life still held. In the next room, Daniel was studying for his final college exams, already planning the foundation's initiatives he would implement after graduation. In another room, Olivia was drawing illustrations for the 15th book in the collection, while listening to soft music and thinking of the children who would read her stories. And in the back room, Mrs. Margaret was organizing photos from the international trip, still amazed by everything she had experienced, but most of all proud of the family she had helped to build. The house breathed harmony, purpose, and much love. Outside on the quiet street in the Queens neighborhood, life went on at its normal pace. Neighbors returned from work, children played on the sidewalks, street vendors offered their goods. It was a simple life but full of meaning, a life built on the solid foundation of love, honest work, and solidarity. A life that had begun with tears in a supermarket aisle and transformed into a story of hope for thousands of families. A life that proved every day that the most beautiful miracles begin in the most difficult moments, when good people meet and decide to build a better world together. And while the Mitchell-Henderson family slept peacefully, dreaming of new projects and new ways to help, hundreds of other families supported by the foundation also slept in peace, knowing they had support to transform their own stories. Because true success isn't measured only by what we achieve, but mainly by the good we manage to awaken in other people. And this family had discovered that the greatest wealth in the world is the ability to make a difference in the lives of those in need of hope. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of this moving story of overcoming and love. Do you believe that casual encounters can change our lives forever? Share your opinion in the comments, and if this story touched your heart, don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more inspiring stories like this one.